You know what I'm saying. That's doing it with integrity. She did use integrity. Yeah?
Yes.
Am I done preaching? Then I need an amen.
Amen.
All right, well then we can move on.
Welcome back, folks. We're so glad you're here. Welcome to session 7. Today we're going to be talking about farm to table, feeding your database new quality meds direct from the farm. 6. That's never any referrals.
Is that 7?
Why are we talking about farming?
We're talking about farm to table. Well, the table, close the table.
Pardon me, I clicked on. I had it set last night too. Interesting. How do you get back? Forgive me for that. Oh, that's because I watched it already. That's why.
Hey, greetings, database warrior. Here we are at session 6, and hey, today's topic is about being that local expert and trusted real estate advisor. And as always, before we get into today's content, we got to do a review from last week. So, Tammy, what were some of the ahas on our part from last week? What we covered? What's important?
Well, Steve, first and foremost, we're always going to start with the DT-D2 system because it's really the non-negotiable. It's the foundation of never-ending referrals. So we trust that you're doing the DT-D2. Next, it was really about cementing the relationship. It was, the eight touches to a lasting impression, 7 to cement, whatever you want to call it. However, it was really, taking that simple system and being very intentional on purpose so that you blast it into, taking mind share through contribution. Is just vitally important. And then really, Steve, it was that law of duality. It was, you talk about, launching the relationship with the 7 to cement, and then it was about the law of duality. It was taking mind share, becoming, in that number 1 or number 2 position. And, it really becoming the local expert and the trusted advisor, which is really what we're going to dig into today. So, facilitators, take a moment and update that scorecard, share some ahas, talk about your successes this week, and we'll get back together and we'll dig right in.
All right, how'd we do? Where's my pen? I had a pen. There it is. All right, Alex Rosales. I put him up here just so I could put a bunch of zeros by his name, right? He never even enrolled in the class. I just like to give him a hard time. The Alonzo Group. What in the world's happening? Oh my gosh. So here's another pitfall. You ready? You ready for the pitfall? You get a little taste of success. What's a little taste of success in our business? What would that look like? A closing, right? Money, a commission check. We get a little taste. Woo, get a little taste of it, and then we go on fishing. We go on fishing, right? We unplug for a little bit. We don't think we unplug and we don't say we unplug. None of us are going to do that though, right? Right? And then you end up with zeros on the board, right? right? Alex Galena. Joe, my man Joe. Holly, the millionaire real estate agent. Zeros. Gladys. We finally got somebody who's here. Gladys, how did we do? How many contacts did you make?
7 contacts.
7, good job. And how many referrals did you receive?
1.
Good. Excellent. I love it when a plan comes together. And how many new people did you add to your database?
1.
1, okay. And did you do your one thing?
No.
What was your one thing last week?
Okay.
Huh?
I can't remember the letters, but to.
To tag the letters, right? To tag the correct letters. Okay. So we get a big fat 0. Okay. Ileana. Doris. So she came in a minute ago and she got 2 booklets. Nico, Megan, Hillary. We got somebody, Hillary. So how many contacts did we make, Hillary?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I got a promotion in my job and
Got a promotion in my job and what?
I finished.
Blah, 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 blah. I'm not trying to be mean,
No, it's-
Hillary.
Yeah.
That's the coach that comes out in me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
When we're interested in something, what do? When we're interested in accomplishing something, when do we do it when it's convenient. When we're committed to something, what do? How do we handle it then? Huh?
When we're committed.
When we're committed,
No matter what.
no matter what, the results are all that matter. Right? Everything else is a what? Okay, I'm not good at sign language. I'm just a high I and I use my hands. So please don't misunderstand my hands as sign language. Right? Everything else is just an excuse.
Right.
Right? That's the cold hard truth. And it, by the way, it doesn't have to mean that it's disrespectful, rude, mean, or anything like that. It's just calling it what it is. If you told your son to take out the trash, are you with me? And he said, I have a stomach ache. Is it an excuse? It is an excuse. Now, is it an excuse that perhaps you'll let him off with? Perhaps, depending on how soft you are. This guy wouldn't, but some might, right? Some might, but it's still an excuse. Yeah? I was supposed to do something last night, but my grandmother passed away, and I'm not taking it very well. So I didn't do it. Is it an excuse? It is. At the end of the day, it's an excuse. 100% excuse. Now, am I going to let myself off the hook? Probably, because it's reasonable and it's understandable, right? At some level, I let myself off the hook, Malachi, because it's time to get back on the horse, right? All right, enough with my soapbox. Gail, Suhaley, Myrna, Myra, Phil. So let me ask you a question. What causes 32 people to sign up for a course, and then we go down and what happens?
Give up.
Give up? Why do we give up?
They're not committed.
Because we're not committed. Even though we all signed commitment letters when we started. So is that integrity or not? If you show up, you're showing integrity. That's right back to doing business with integrity. Wendell!
You're here.
All right, well, he's here. Gasp and all.
I'm a star.
All right, how many contacts did you make?
I had about 5.
5 contacts. And how many referrals did you receive? 1. Nice. All right, and how many new people did you add to your database? How many? How many? How many? All right, did you complete your one thing? All right. All right, so let me ask a question to the group. Based on, can you all see Wendell's progress on the board? Can you see it back there? I'll go ahead and review it for those people that are in Facebook land too. Session 2, contacted 2 people. Session 3, 0. Session 4, 5 people. Session 5, 0. Session 6, 6 people. Referrals received, 0 across the board, except for 1 this week. New additions to his database. 2 times he did 10, 3 times he did 0, and completing his one thing were zeros across the board. Where is the trajectory of Wendell's business? Consistent, and consistently going where? Nowhere. So if Wendell were his own boss, which he is, should he fire himself? He keeps coming back. Dorothea says you're not fired. Keep going. All right, Tia, how many contacts did you make?
5.
5. All right, how many referrals did you receive?
None, but I got 2 people that called me back after open house I did a few months ago.
Okay.
That I'm taking out on Saturday to look at homes.
Okay, great.
And that was just from me reaching out to them by email.
See, productivity breeds productivity, folks. Productivity breeds productivity. So even though Tia didn't receive those 2 referrals directly from the people that she called, the act of doing so put her engagement level in a situation where she was open to receive new business. That's a thing. That's a thing. It's real and it's live and it's a thing. You give a certain energy out whether you know it or not, by the way. Tiff, how many, oh, did I finish to you?
No. My database, I added 54 people.
54 people, wow, nice. And did you do your one thing?
What was that? I added the C and K to my Facebook.
Okay, so now, for those of you that can see Tia's, is she consistent?
Yes.
Yes. And what's the trajectory of Tia's business?
Up.
Up. Is Tia gonna receive the result that she desires?
Yes.
Likely, right? Yes. As long as she what? Stays consistent, right? All right, Tiff, how many contacts did you make?
10.
10. How many referrals did you receive?
3.
3. How many new people did you add to your database?
5.
5. Did you do your one thing?
I did put all of my database into the numbers, not on Facebook though, just in my database. So I did the one thing from like first.
Clara, how many contacts did you make?
I made 3.
Okay.
Didn't get any referrals.
No referrals.
Yeah.
And how many new people did you add to your database?
I added 10.
Okay. And how did you complete your one thing?
Yes. 5 C's and 4 K's.
Nice. Sonia, how many contacts did you make?
10.
10. And how many referrals did you get?
1.
1 referral. Nice. And how many new people did you add to your database?
12.
12? Good job. Did you do your one thing?
No.
Oh, for Pete's sake, I
I
put a
was
1.
there last week.
You're the Chavez
But I
group.
think I did like a couple weeks ago. Because I started doing the letters and put everything in order. I
Right,
think I did
okay.
already.
Right, you did it, your homework ahead.
Yeah, because they, in the paper, there are all the letters that we need to.
Right,
to do.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So we say you got a 1. Uh-oh, I'm making a mess, I'll fix it later. All right, Malachi. Had an excuse for the first few weeks of not being here, not even like being here, like not even being in the market center. So that's a slide, we give him that excuse, right? 2 excuses that work. Death, you're dead, not somebody in your family. You died or you weren't here at all in the business. Those are your 2 valid excuses. So now Malachi's been here about at least 1 session, right?
Yeah, I was here for the last one.
Yeah, okay. So how many people did we talk to?
Like 70.
Did you, in the thing?
Hmm?
Did you do the thing?
I mean, I talked to like 70 people and I filled my database up with about 70 people so far.
Okay, so did you do the A and W, B and E, D and O, C and K?
No, I just went through my whole entire thing. So
Just
I
went
didn't
through the
see-
whole thing?
Yeah, I didn't see who I got from actually just C and K.
Okay, but you made 70 contacts.
Yes.
And how many referrals did you receive?
2.
2. Okay. How many new people did you add to your database? Probably those 70, right? Because you're brand new. Okay. And you didn't do your one thing, but we'll work on that with you. Jax, did you do stuff? Because you come and go. Should I report your numbers?
Sure.
Awesome. I love it. I love that answer. All right, Jax, how many contacts did you make?
3.
All right. And how many referrals did you receive?
None.
And how many new people did you add to your database?
2.
2. And did you do your one thing?
No.
Okay. Awesome. Did I miss anybody? I know we have a full class and I might overlook somebody. All right. We already talked about your wins for the week. Any other ahas for this week?
Well, a listing I'm taking tomorrow.
Good. Around last week's lesson, how did it go? Tell me about your ahas.
But I was gonna say, I did go on, 3 open houses.
Speak loud and proud, Window. You got that nice deep voice for Facebook land to share it.
But I did go on 3, open houses this past weekend.
Okay, and tell us about that experience.
It was actually pretty nice. A couple of them were, no, one was, a KW agent, so we actually saw them at the open house and everything. People coming in and going out looking, and of course, we had a person with us that was looking. They weren't interested in what they had, they found something else.
Okay. So what steps did you guys take to implement your 8x8? Did you do anything around that? Last week, that's what you talked about, was the 8x8. Do you remember this? Were you here?
Yes.
Right? What ahas did you have around that, or did you implement?
I'm writing introduction letters to my 70 people.
You're writing introduction letters, okay? So that could be one of the 8x8. So now what would Malachi need to do to continue that?
Maybe send out some market snapshots.
Perhaps some market snapshot. When should he do that?
The next one.
The following week, right? The 8x8 means for 8 weeks, you're touching them 8 times.
Can do that through, command.
I'm so glad you asked that, Clara. The question was, can he do that through command? What's the answer?
Yes, he'll be on tomorrow.
Yes. Now, does that mean that Command's gonna do it for you?
Shouldn't.
So Command can do some things for you, but is Command gonna get in the car and drive over and do a pop-by? Let's all send Gary Keller a request. Can Command do our job for us? Right? We still gotta do it. We still gotta take the action, right? So one letter is the beginning. It is not by any stretch, Malachi, the end. Right? It's just the beginning. We must stay consistent or it doesn't matter. It's for nothing. Send out one letter, and I'm not suggesting you're doing this, I'm using this as an example. Send out one letter, you may as well have sent nothing. I lost my screen. I'm such a techie, you have no idea. Here we go.
So welcome back from your lab. So we've got that scorecard filled out. I trust you shared many ahas, insights, your results that you've been getting from applying DTT2 and all the other activities here in Never Ending Referrals. And so today, let's go to page 4. And somewhere in the margin, I want you to make some notes about a conversation I had with Gary Keller a number of years ago. This was a conversation we were having around e-commerce. This was long before the internet battles, the dot-com battles of today, and what's going on in our industry. And we had a conversation about a thing called commodities in e-commerce. And Gary walked me through something that I think you might find instructional. And we were talking about what type of products or services were best transacted via e-commerce. This was during the dot-com explosion, and eBay was in its heyday, and Amazon had come on the scene, and we were really looking at how is all this going to impact the real estate industry. And we talked about a thing called commodities. And so I want you to write this down. In fact, there are 4 commodities that we're going to talk about. Start from the bottom, do 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's start at the bottom. So number 4 would be what we would call a standard commodity. That's going to be your book, your CD, a sundry that you might get from Amazon. All this is easy to transact e-commerce wise. And in fact, Amazon says that that's their bread and butter. It's the standard commodities. They don't call it that, and they'll say that's what we're really great at. Now the next level up, well, that's a choice commodity. So a choice commodity would be something like a hotel room, an airline ticket. It's simple to transact e-commerce wise. You go on, you select a day of travel, when you want to go, class of service, first class, coach, business, whatever it might be. You make that selection and then you click and you go. Easy e-commerce transaction. So we had standard, we had choice. The next level of commodity, number 2, is custom. So a custom commodity, think about this. I don't know if there's any golfers out there. Certainly if your golf game is struggling, it's got to be the clubs, right? It's got to be the clubs. It can't be the operator. And so you decide you're going to get a new set of customized, just for you, ping golf clubs. You can go to their website. They've got an ordering guide. You can take all these measurements, measure the grip size this way. Here's how you're going to decide what shaft, length, thickness, hosel lie that you desire to have. And you're looking at this one, man, if I get this wrong, I've got a $2,500 set of golf clubs that maybe are useless. I don't know if I trust myself to get that just right in that kind of investment. And so you're probably going to go see a golf professional or go to some type of specialty shop where they'll work with you on that. Now, there'd be 5% that are hobbyists, that's their thing, and they'll do it, and yet most won't. And so that's a custom commodity. And then there's this next level we call unique commodity. So a unique commodity, well, that pretty much describes what it is. It's unique. I was sitting with a group of real estate agents in Conroe, Texas. We were on Lake Conroe doing a class, and we were at this wonderful marina overlooking these beautiful boats and these waterfront homes. And I said, think about what this is like for y'all. You guys deal in such a unique commodity here. Here's the great thing. E-commerce, it's difficult to transact this. Everything's so unique. It really requires that personal involvement, personal touch of you as a real estate agent. So I said, the great news is you deal in a product that is a unique commodity. Congratulations, isn't that great? And I said, here's the bigger question though. We've kind of rested on our laurels of that way too long. We had the information, we dealt in a unique commodity. And in today's world, it's not about the fact that we deal in a unique commodity that has to be the advantage. What has to be the advantage is, what are you, the real estate agent? Are you going to let yourself become a standard or choice commodity where people simply go look at reviews, or they begin to think any realtor is just the same as any realtor? And that would be standard or choice. You've got to think, how do I position myself to be, well, that custom realtor, that unique realtor? You're irreplaceable. Gary talks about a thing called functionary versus fiduciary. And you're really going to have to make a decision today. It's going to have to be high level. If you want to be highly paid, if you want to be the one that they really go to, be that custom or unique choice when it comes to being their real estate agent, you got to play the game at a bigger level. And so we get into the next area now where we really look at, what does our message have to be to position us as such? What is the method of getting that message out? What is our mission in all this? We're going to talk about a thing called MOFR. We'll talk about MOFR in just a little bit. So let's get right there. Let's go to page number 4, and let's start about the goal here. So the goal is, when we become that customer unique choice for the people in our database, well, here's what's going to happen. They're going to ask us, when it comes to anything real estate, they know to ask us. We've earned that place. We've taken that position. They trust us. And by the way, they listen to us. That's the end game that we seek. When we think about our message and how we're getting our message out there, meaning the method, this is the end game. It's to get them to ask us, because we've positioned ourselves as the expert. We've positioned ourselves as that resource, that go-to when it comes to questions about real estate, or even things around their real estate, their lifestyle of living in their home. We're able to support them through that. And part of what we do is when we put our message out there, we're asking for offers for immediate response. That's what MOFR stands for. Write it down. Making offers for immediate response. And so we put offers out there, which is inviting them to ask us, in fact, telling them what to ask us through our offer. And then, of course, when it comes to trust me, they trust us because they see we're on top of the details. We're communicating the trends. They can see that we absolutely understand the market. And then they see the testimonials. Those testimonials that really help others tell our story of why they can trust us. And then it comes to listen. Why are they going to listen to us? Because they see that we do the research. We've interpreted what's happening in the market. In fact, we've even told them what the opportunities are based on what's happening on the market, and maybe what they should do. They see our evidence of success, and they get to experience that everything, all our connections with them, everything we do is focused on benefiting them. And when they have those experiences, you do become that trusted advisor. You are absolute custom or unique commodity they would not do without you. You have to build that position. You have to engage in those 36 touches. You've got to DTD to it. Have those 4 conversations. And by the way, they listen because they see that we've done the research. They really, we know the market. They see the evidence of success, and every interaction that they have with us is been focused on benefiting them. We've had those forward conversations. We've sent them items of value. We've engaged them in a way as a professional. And because we do that, we've earned that position to ask, to trust, to listen. So if that's the position you choose to have, now we need to get into the method. How do we get our message out? What does that message maybe look like? And that's where we're going now. Let's get into the method. So let's go to page 5. So on page 5, we're going to deal with now the method. We're going to start with the method of prospecting. And so let's kind of look at some examples here that you've got on the page on page 5. So when we look at prospecting, again, we talked about MOFR, right? Making offers for immediate response. And so when we think about MOFR, let's look at how this might look with a direct and an indirect offer. So we're prospecting now, and a direct offer might say, are you thinking of moving? Or are you considering buying or selling in the near future? Do you want me to help you get the home of your dreams? And then, of course, lastly here on the page, we have, are you considering selling your home, or do you want me to handle the sale for you? Now, all of these are very direct. Now, here's what you notice about a direct offer. When we make offers that are direct, they typically end or a yes or a no. That's okay. This is a conversation where we ask a direct question. It's a direct offer, looking for the immediate response of a yes or a no, and a no is okay. There's a book out there, Go for No, and it says that no's are the path to the yes, right? And that is okay. We're just soliciting a direct response. Now let's go to the indirect side. So on the prospecting side, what might an indirect offer to somebody we're in a dialogue sound with? Now remember, this could be tied in as part of a dialogue. It didn't mean we just came out and just got on the phone and blurted out a question. We were having a dialogue. It could have been a forward dialogue. It could have been that simple, and then something came up, we saw a need, we saw an opportunity, and we could have asked a direct offer question or an indirect offer question. So let's take a look at what the indirect side might look like. So here's some examples. I'm doing a survey in the area. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions? I just sold a home down the street, and there were a lot of interested buyers, so I was wondering, do you know of anyone else who might be interested in selling their house? Here's another one. I create a monthly newsletter. Would you like to receive it? It's full of great information on home trends and things happening in your area. Now, that's an invitation to engage with us. We didn't ask them to list with us, to buy a home. It was a way for them to feel comfortable opting in to be in relationship with us, take some kind of action with us, and it's very non-threatening. It's a non-threatening approach to deepening a relationship or a conversation. So we look at marketing now on page 6. And again, this is our method, is marketing, and we're going to look at our message in terms of ultimately the offers that we might put out there, a direct and indirect offer. So there could have been a conversation where we had a message around what's happening in the market, and then the call to action of the offer was of the various nature that we're going to offer here to you now, direct or indirect. So let's look at some examples. So a direct offer, well, it might sound like this. We've got a message that we put out, and then we get to the offer, and a direct offer in our marketing. If you want to sell your home now, call me. Are you looking for the home of your dreams? Call me. Need to sell your home? Call Janice today. I have buyers who are interested in living in your neighborhood. Call me if you're ready to sell now. Lastly, I can help you get the most net income from the sale of your home today. Call me to learn how we can make that happen. So these are examples of direct response. We are putting an offer out there to call us, engage with us. If this is something you'd like to have happen, call us now. Now again, that's a very direct approach. We're not looking for everybody to respond to our marketing. We're looking for that target who might have a need to that offer, and that's a cue for them to connect with you. Now remember, if you're in flow with them, if you've been in touch, if you're connected, because like Barbara, she made the calls, now I'm opening her emails, I'm paying more attention, they're more likely now to see your offers and respond to your offers. Now, if we choose to take an indirect approach in marketing, here's some examples of, well, how that might look in your marketing. So here's some. Would you like to know the value of your home? Visit my website. And then, of course, on your website, you can have a registration page for them to get information on their home value. Here's another. Get my list of best buys. Call this toll-free number. Go to my website. Whatever the case may be, you're just inviting them to engage with you, and you're telling them what action to take to do so. And then lastly, I know 5 great ways to get your home sold. Call me. Now that almost sounds a little bit direct, because we're saying you're going to call me if you want to get a home sold. And we're just saying there's those 5 great ways. So it's kind of bordering on direct a little bit, because we're expecting a person to call somebody who really likes to get their home sold. So lastly, on page 6, I want us to talk about the mission here. The mission is deciding what's really at stake, not just for us, really for our clients, if we don't engage with them, if we don't do this 36 touch, if we don't do DTD2, well, you won't become that trusted advisor. You won't take that position, as unique or custom. And if you choose not to take that, not to do the work, yeah, you're not gonna get a 10% return. Yeah, maybe you're not gonna get a 5% return. And yet, what's at stake for those people that you don't connect with? So let's look at this real quick. On the screen, you might make some notes. And if you don't make the calls, if you don't engage, guys, they're gonna be uneducated. They're gonna be fearful, not knowing what they should do. If they don't have a trusted advisor like you, what should they do? They might make poor judgments, be frustrated, disloyal. Man, they're not gonna be tuned in. They're gonna be apathetic. And maybe when you finally do call, maybe it's not enough to rekindle the relationship. Maybe they feel neglected. They're gonna be probably non-responsive to your emails, maybe not even watch them, right? They're wary, indecisive, disappointed, maybe even a little jaded. Is that really what we want? And we know it's not what we desire. And so let's look at the opportunity when we fulfill the mission, we do the work, we really make this come together. And let's look at the other side of the equation. When we make those calls, man, we've got a well-educated database. They're hopeful, they're able to make good judgments around this thing called real estate. And because we're interpreting data, we're interpreting the market, we're being that expert, we're that person that they ask, trust, and listen to. Then, of course, we create advocacy. Tammy took us through how many advocates and core advocates can you have, and the more communication you have, the more you create. And then, of course, they're tuned in, their RAS is activated to you when they think real estate. Guys, they're feeling the love, right? And then, of course, they're receptive to your offers. And they're confident, committed, they're encouraged, empowered, and most importantly, they're impressed with you. You are that fiduciary to them. So do the work, gotta make it happen. That's where the referrals come. So as you'll see on page 7, we're really just kind of summing up these principles around offers and how we do this. So when we lead generate, we're doing it via prospecting or we're doing it via marketing. And we're having this choice or this decision to make, am I gonna do direct or indirect offers? And so we really look at it, just direct are straight and to the point. They require somebody to make a decision, a snap decision about, am I gonna respond, am I not gonna respond? And either one is okay. On the indirect side, we simply make the point that these messages are very non-threatening. In the early stages of your 8x8, you might choose to put some indirect offers in. We're just inviting them to engage rather than going straight at them. And then you might make different decisions versus direct conversations versus what might be in your marketing. It might be more comfortable to put direct offers in your marketing, which seems kind of natural because you tell people what to do and how to interpret the data and what choices they make. And yet when you're having that conversation, especially if the relationship's kind of new or you haven't been in touch in a while, you might choose indirect offers because they're a little less threatening. You're not asking them to make a big decision at this point. You get them engaged with you by making little decisions. And then you get to build upon the relationship from there. So I trust that helps. Let's keep going. On page 8, when we think about the response that we're seeking from our offers, a response can take the form of either an answer to a question, where we ask them, would you like me to handle the sale of your home? Well, that's a yes or no. It's a response. It's an immediate response. Or it can take the form of an action. And that action might be call today to get my best buy list. So either way, we're going direct, indirect, we're asking them to answer a question or take an action. Those might be some examples. So I trust that's going to help you today formulate some offers when y'all do some work in your lab. All right, guys, so hey, let's go to page 9. On page 9, we're talking about being that local real estate economist. We hear Gary say that all the time. And what does that mean? Well, in the Shift book, he shared with us 14 economist value points, maybe things that we could focus on that would demonstrate that we were just that. And so here's those 14 listed for you. And we're not gonna go through them all. I look at them and I think about number one. You know, I love to influence with facts and numbers. And number 9, maybe some local stats, historical versus current, national versus local. And what does all that mean? In fact, let's look at this slide we have here. In fact, you have it in page 10 of your workbook. And Gary didn't update this slide at the last vision speech that he had. And so I threw this one in here because I think it's a great example of us playing with how we might interpret data. And so when we look at this slide, you'll notice that it's got a long-term trend about home prices. And when you look at the long-term trend, it says home prices right now should be at, say 317 on the long-term trend, at least at the 2020 line. And that at the current trend, it's going to be substantially less than that. In fact, there's about a 16, 18% gap. And that being the case, what does that mean? Does it mean that we're still undervalued, or at least nationally? Does it mean that there's a new trend and that's the new trend line?
I'm gonna let it buffer for a second.
Oh no, and it could be either. And yet, so my question would be for you, when you looked at this graph, what would you interpret this to mean? How would you interpret what's being said? By the way, if we just sent this to somebody and said, "Hey, look at this," we're just being a reporter. We're putting the information out. They get to draw their own conclusions. Our job, if we're going to be the real estate economist, is we have to interpret that information. What does that mean? So let's go back to the graph. And so we look at the graph, and we have to make a decision. What does this mean? Now, we're actually offering you a script that might be a conversation of an interpretation. So the next part of this is we're going to be the advisor. If we're going to take the next step to being that local economist, trusted advisor, we're actually going to take a position on what this means and maybe some decisions they might choose to make around it, maybe some actions they would take. And so we're probably going to then embed in this an offer for immediate response. We're going to suggest that they take an action or answer a question, and that will be our MOFR. We're going to associate an offer based upon what we think this data means, and we're going to give them the option to make a decision to do something or not to do something. So now let's look at another piece of information called a total market overview. This is something that Diana used in her business. Many agents use it around the country, where they take a hyper-local area, maybe a broad area, and they break it down by price range and look at the trend. In fact, let's take a look at an example right here from one of Tammy's areas, and we'll look at Area 13. And when we look at Area 13, look at the information we have available to us here. The number of active listings, the number of pendings, the percent of the market that's pending by price range, the actual number of expireds in the last 6 months, how many closed in the last 6 months, the average list price of sold homes, the average sold price, and by the way, that most important list to sales price ratio and days on the market. So here's some additional data. This is really local. And in fact, in the appendix of your material today, we've put 2 examples of a total market overview. So in your lab today, we're going to ask you to do 2 things. Take the slide that we've given you on page 10 and get together in a group and mastermind what would be some potential interpretations of that data. What, based upon that, would be some advice we would give to the people in our database? And then what kind of offers might we build based upon all of that? And then also go through one of these sample total market overviews. What could be a message we could build based upon this information? If we were putting this out to our database, what conclusions would we draw about these 2 different markets? What suggestions would we have? Where would be the opportunity in the market? Where might there be some caution in the market, if any? So right now, we're going to send you into your lab to work on being that local local economist. So take a moment, interpret the information. What does it mean? Suggest an action. What does it mean to them? What actions might they take? And then create some possible offers. So mastermind, get together in small groups, mastermind, then clear it out. Talk about some of your suggestions that you came up with, and then we'll come back.
Okay, so we're not going to do that. We're going to do something different. Okay, we're going to do a localized. Because if we're going to put this into action, let's put this into real life action of how it's really truly going to affect you, so that this afternoon when you go out into the world, you'll have the information that's local to you. Okay, so how could understanding the market benefit you in your business? First of all, let me ask you this question. Before we go there, let me ask this question. Are you salespeople?
No.
What are you? Huh? I can't hear you but no, you've got this deep, great, wonderful voice.
Thank you for being too loud. Relationship building.
Relationship building, what else are we?
Problem solvers.
Problem solvers, what else? There's a kind of a word that summarizes sort of all that. What did you say, Gladys?
Project manager.
Well, you're definitely a project manager. You're a representative. We are representatives. Clients hire us to look out for their best interest, to represent them. That's what they hire us for. They might think they're hiring a salesperson, but this is no car lot. This is no furniture store. It's not all about the commission, because I guarantee you, if your focus is what is the best interest of my clients, and you hold that fiduciary to a high level, the money will absolutely take care of itself. Now that doesn't forgive or take away or even diminish in the slightest what your number one job description is, which is what? What's your number one job description?
Relationship building.
Lead generation. Right? Number one job description is what?
Lead generation.
Okay, you don't believe it, I don't believe it. Your number one job is what?
Lead generation.
It's lead generation. That's your job description. However, what is your one thing as a realtor? We've gone over this before. What is it?
Relationship building.
What is it? Your one thing that if by focusing on, not your one job description, right? This is broken up and this is compartmentalization is what we're talking about right now. You have a job description and then you have a one thing that you focus on. By doing that, everything else falls into place, right? And what is that one thing? Jax, you got to remember this from a year ago. Come on. It's taking people from where they are to where they want to be through their own fears and objections. So if we focus on that, and we focus on lead generation, right? If that's what we're doing, we're getting ourselves in front of people, and then when we get in front of those people, we take them from where they are to where they want to be through their own fears and objections, then by golly, we've done it, right? So would learning the market and understanding our market help us do that?
Yes.
At a much higher level, right? If all we are salespeople and all we're doing is out selling motorhomes or cars or furniture, do we much care about the customer? We might care about the customer experience and interaction with us at that moment. But we really don't care what's in their best interest. We care if they buy the couch from me right now, or the car, or the motorhome, or whatever the thing is, right? And that's not what we're doing. We're looking out for their best interest. So we're looking out for their best interest by analyzing the market. How can you analyze a real estate market? What might you do? What tool might you use? Flex MLS. By the way, do you belong to the GAVR MLS or the Flex MLS? Flex MLS. And you belong to the Greater Antelope Valley Association of Realtors, otherwise known as GAVR. That's the association you belong to. Flex is the MLS that you belong to. Make sure you have that distinction, right? So we go to Flex, and what happens when we log into Flex on the front page? What's there?
Pop-ups,
Pop-ups. What's the pop-ups?
announcements and stuff.
Announcements. What else is there?
Market analysis.
All your market analysis.
All of the, you've got about 4 or 5 charts, or maybe there's a few more. I don't know off the top of my head how many there are, but you've got at least 4 charts there telling you something about the market. Not every MLS provides this. I belong to more than one MLS, and in another MLS they do not provide that. You have to know how to go in and dig for the data and find it yourself. So you pull up your Flex MLS, and on there's a chart that tells you what's the average days on market. Why would average days on market be important to you?
So you can tell your sellers how long you can expect them to be on the market for a given price point.
So it could help. So re-say it again, Brando.
It's how long it takes for the market to absorb the property.
So average days on market is
50.
like 52 or something, right? So that means that on average, when a home is listed, from the time that it's listed to the time that it closes is 52 days. That's what it takes. Is 52 days to close a home. Okay? So how could we possibly use that information?
Make sure that the seller knows that they have to price it right. It has to be priced right.
So what if I have so going along with what Clara said, pricing it right, okay? So if we use that, I think that not necessarily but we could go there with it. We're talking with a seller, and the house is the market shows that the house should be listed at $380,000 all day long and twice on Sunday. How do we come up with 380? Through the comparables, through the comps. And where did I find the comps? In the MLS, right? Now, where did I find them in the MLS? Did I find them if the house is located on the west side of Palmdale? Did I go and look on the east side of Lancaster? No, I looked within how much of a radius of the subject property? About a half a mile. Maybe I go a little more than that, up to a mile if I have to, depending on the area. You have to be careful how far outside the area you go, because neighborhoods change, do they not?
Yes.
And a mile radius outside could put you in a completely different situation. Especially if you have like a house that borders an older neighborhood that's a totally different tract, right? There's some homes right across the street over here. Right across the street, boop, you take like by the Shell station, Armsfield, I think is what it's called, and you go over that light, right there is an older tract. Those houses were built in the 60s and 70s. If you keep going like 2 blocks, bam, you run into a housing tract that was built in 2009. I think it's Beaker that built that, I think, right? Beaker Homes? You run into this Beaker tract. So if you were doing a market analysis on that street that runs into Armfield, and you said a mile, you could pick up one of those 1960s houses. So you have to be careful how far out. Use some common sense around that, right? Okay? So now we have a seller that wants to list at 420, but the CMA that we did, the comparables, the comps that we pulled, shows that it should be at $380,000 all day long and twice on Sunday. So how could we use the average days on market to help this conversation with a seller? What could we do?
We could show the, during that, say that, let's use that 52-day period. We could see that, we could show that houses that really need to go right away, we want to position them in the upper ends, or the upper part of that 52-day bracket. Am I saying that right?
It helps to set the expectation when you meet with them as far as what they plan on doing. If they need to sell right away, if they have time, then you can determine at that point at what intervals you're gonna go down on the property and if you need to, depending on the.
Right, if a house is gonna close in 52 days, when might it go into escrow?
About 7
15 days.
Right, within the first 30 days at least. Right, within the first month, we should be receiving an offer, which means within the first week, we should be receiving what? If we're receiving offers in 2 or 3 weeks, what might we have? What happens before the offer process happens?
Showings.
Showings. So what would be happening prior to showings? I mean, prior to offers.
The showings.
Showings.
Buyer activity.
So if we put the property on the market at 420, and what's likely to happen
Price reduction.
in this situation? Put the property up for 420, it's worth 380. What's likely to happen in the first week?
No showings.
Nothing. No showings, right? Nothing. As TD Jake says, nothing just happens. Right? Nothing. Nothing. So then what might the conversation be with our seller?
Price reduction.
Yes, price.
So is this the first time the seller's going to hear about this price reduction?
No.
No.
No. When is the seller going to be hearing about it first?
In the listing presentation.
During the listing, when we're signing the contract and he wants to list it for $40,000 more than it's worth, and we're having the conversation. Not only did we have the conversation that, okay, Mr. Seller, if the average home sells in 52 days, that means we need to be under contract in the first 30 days. You said you wanted to be in Boise by January 1st. It's October the 21st. If we get a contract in the next 30 days, that puts us at November the 21st. We got a Thanksgiving thing gonna happen. We got Christmas gonna happen. You got some holidays in there, right? So we got some business days that are being taken away from us. And you wanna be in Boise by the 1st, you said. Are you with me? So, Mr. Seller, okay, I'll list it, by the way, I wouldn't do this, but this is a scenario. Okay, we'll list it at 420. If we don't have any showings in how many days?
14.
7.
In this market, if we don't have any showings in 7, if nobody has darkened the door, the lockbox has got cobwebs on it, in 7 days, we're making a price reduction. And not only are we having that conversation verbally, what else are we doing? We're putting it in the listing contract. We're reducing this baby because the market is telling us, right? This is how that might work. So that's one way in which you could use average days on market. What's another chart that they pull up? When you pull up Flex, what's another chart that shows up? Absorption rate. What in the world is absorption rate?
How many days it takes for the market to absorb the property?
How many days it takes for the marketplace to absorb the inventory? What's our inventory look like right now in the Antelope Valley? Do you know it? 1,250, right? I mean, plus or minus 10 a day, because if you don't check it every day, it does go up and down by about 10 every day. Where were we 4 months ago? How many active listings did we have in the market? When I would ask that question, how many were there?
About 1,300.
They were right around 1,400, high 13s. And now we're at 12, last night when I looked it was 1,248. So 1,248 listings down from, what is that telling us? What is that telling us?
Do I not buy it?
Houses are selling quickly because there's not a lot of houses to choose from, and it's hard.
It's
to
a,
get your
right,
house.
but there's not a lot of the inventory is doing what? Is the inventory going up or is the inventory coming down?
Going down.
The inventory is coming down. What does that mean for values? Right? It's simple supply and demand, is it not? So is that telling us that perhaps by the way, it's not a telltale sign, but is it perhaps telling us that maybe there's not enough supply to keep up with the demand? Not enough people are listing their homes for sale. Fewer people are listing their homes for sale in October than they were in July. Fewer homes on the market. Creating a, Tiffany said it, a seller's market. Okay? So the absorption rate is the number of days that it takes for the market to absorb all of the inventory if nothing else were to come onto the market. What is it in the Antelope Valley? What is the absorption rate?
3.2 months.
Somewhere around 3 months, right? 3.2 months. So, if nobody ever listed another thing, come November, December, January, then come in the middle of January, we would have no houses for sale. That's what that means. How might this information be useful when you're on a listing appointment or working with a buyer?
They need to be aware that offers better be good.
The buyer better be aware, right? So when you're talking with a buyer and they say, okay, they're asking 3099. They're asking 3099, so let's go ahead and come on in at 275. And ask them to pay $10,000 in closing costs, throw in a fireplace, a new roof and some new flooring, put some palm trees in the backyard, add solar and put a pool in. Right? What might we say to this buyer in this circumstance?
We're gonna be looking a long time.
It's a waste of time.
Okay, it's a waste of time, we're going to be looking a long time, but what else could we use? What else could we say?
They tell them how quickly you've been.
By the way, when you're a buyer and your perception of the world is that realtors are salespeople, right? If that's the perception, what causes that perception? By the way,
The way
we do as a collective group. We do. And why is that? What causes that? The whole point of today's lesson, realtors who do not understand their market at a high level. When you're not speaking market expert language to your client, they're going to see you as a salesperson. So when you use verbiage like, we're wasting our time, you know what they hear? You just want to get paid and you think I'm wasting your time. When we say other things other than factual market data information, they're hearing sales language. Are you with me? So if you're caught up around how to write a contract or how to write a disclosure or what steps come first or all of this other stuff, I guarantee you that all of that means nothing. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And how can you exemplify that care in this situation? By knowing how to fill out a purchase contract?
No, by just explaining away the situation and trying to get them to understand.
By having high-level knowledge around your marketplace so you can educate your buyer on the market. Then they know that you care about them. Does that make sense? So, we've said this in Ignite, we say it in coaching, how many houses a day should you be looking at in the MLS? 10 houses a day at least. There's a very easy way to do this. Every single day, the hot sheet refreshes, and it brings up all the new listings in the last 24 hours. And there is anywhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 50 new listings a day that come on the MLS. Right there, your homework is complete. You just click on that. And if you did that every day and perused those listings, you would have an understanding of your market, of what's for sale, at least what the money can buy, right? That would be better than nothing. How many houses should you be out looking at every week?
10.
At least 10. If you don't have a buyer actively right now, who cares? Get your lockbox key, get in your little car, and drive around and go see some houses and get to know your neighborhoods and get to know your inventory. And then bring up the MLS every day and see what's going on and understand your market at a high level, so that when your buyer says, I want to come in at $275 with $10,000 in closing costs and a pool and solar and a fireplace, throw in the 65 Mustang that's in the garage too, right? When they're doing all this, you don't say, we're wasting our time, you're never going to buy a house, do you want to buy or do you want to make offers? You know, those are some things you can say, but what would it look like instead if you were to say, okay, Mr. Buyer, I completely understand what you're saying. We all want a deal when we're buying something. However, here's what I do know. I do know that the market has taken a 14% increase over last year. And the trajectory of the market in today, in July we had over almost 1,400 houses for sale, and today we only have 1,248 houses for sale. What is that telling us, Mr. Buyer? That's telling us that supply is going down while demand is remaining the same. So likely, if we were to make an offer that looked like what you're suggesting, do you think if you put yourself in the seller's shoes that they would accept that? What we do know, Mr. Buyer, is the absorption rate. And if you use that word and just talk and they don't know what it is, by the way, you're already an expert. Because they don't know what absorption rate is, and you don't even have to explain it. You can just say, by the way, the absorption rate is 3.2 months in the Antelope Valley. So that means that that if nothing else sold, everything would be gone in 3.2 months. We wouldn't have any inventory to sell, which puts us in a seller's market, Mr. Buyer. So the sellers really have the leverage. So every house we go to, this is going to be the same thing. We're going to rent it every single time because it is a seller's market. Could that be more impactful than we're wasting our time? Then you're going to just keep doing this? Now, some people do have to learn the hard way. Some people do. I've had this experience. You have to make the offer. They have to get rejected so they know that you're telling the truth. But it's less when you use market data. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
What is the average sales price in the Antelope Valley? Do you know it?
325.
How many?
325.
325. What was it this time last year?
280.
So there's two numbers. This time last year, for the entire Antelope Valley, it was 307, $800 and something dollars. Okay. For the market center, it was 285. So the market center's average sales price was less than what the Antelope Valley was doing. Okay, just side information. Interesting, right? The average sales price in today's market in the Antelope Valley is how much did we say?
325.
And what was it a year ago?
307.
Could that be helpful?
Yes.
So how might you structure an offer? Knowing that information.
Make a strong
Price.
offer. Yeah.
At least.
And maybe even a little bit
A
more.
little bit more.
You're gonna be asking for closing.
especially if you're gonna be asking for closing costs, right? Any questions, comments, concerns? You raised your hand, I was gonna ask something.
Well, before you were just talking about what you can tell your clients, and I thought you were asking the percentage of what the houses sell at. So if you tell them they're selling at 97% of listing price, then you're gonna kind of prove that yours down here, 20,000 below is not good.
So this is a really, really good point, thank you, I had forgotten about that chart. So another chart that you'll find on Flex MLS when you bring it up is your listing to sale ratio. What's a listing to sale ratio?
What you listed for, what it actually sells for.
What you listed for, and then what it sells for, right? So it gives you a percentage, and right now, where are we in the Antelope Valley?
97.
I think it's higher than that, isn't it?
It's 98.
I thought it was almost 99. Last time I looked, I thought it was like 98 point something that almost made it 99%. So what would it look like when the buyer says to you, I want to offer $275 with the pool and the fireplace and the whole thing, right? And you said, so Mr. Buyer, if you want, we can go through the MLS right now. And what you'll find is that houses in the Antelope Valley right now are selling for right around 98% of what they're listed for. So that's giving us about a 2% buffer. So the difference between 420 and 380 is $40,000. What percentage differential is that, Mr. Buyer? By the way, do you know what it is? Just rough and dirty, you don't have to get a calculator out. It's like greater than 10%, but a little less than 15%, right? It's right around in there. So if we say that, it's between a 10 and 15. If we don't get our calculators out, Mr. Buyer, and we're just, doing some rough math here, that's roughly, let's call it 10 to be safe, even though we know it's greater than 10. 10% off in a market, bless you, in a marketplace that's only reducing the price by 2%. Right? And if you want, let's just pull up the MLS right now and just go through it. Let's just look at all the solds in the last 3 months, and let's just go one by one and say, okay, it listed for this and it sold for this. It listed for this and it sold for this. Getting an idea, Mr. Buyer, of probably how we should come in on this gig? You're sounding a lot less like a salesperson and more like a leader and more like a market expert. Yes?
Yes. Title companies also can provide you with that information.
They can. Tell me more about that, Jax.
Well, Allison Pico from First American, she sends out data in the different cities in the Antelope Valley. What's happening as far as whether it's a buyer's market, seller's market, and what their percentage
Yeah.
is.
So they're doing that because they want to add value to you, which is good. And here's the thing. Do you know how to discern what a seller's market, a buyer's market, and a stable environment is? Do you know how to discern that?
The months.
The absorption rate is a big telltale sign, right? So tell me which ones, tell me what they are.
3 months is or less is a seller's market, and 4 to 6 is a buyer's market, and then beyond that is a stable market.
So close, but no cigar.
The stables in the middle.
6 is stable, 7 is buyers.
Right. So anything less than 4 months, is considered to be a seller's market, meaning that we have not enough homes to support the demand. It shows up in the form of sometimes multiple offers. It shows up in a high list to sale ratio, right? When you're at 98, 99, 97%, that's a high list to sale ratio, right? So offers should be strong in a seller's market. A stable market means what? What's stable? What is that? Houses stay on the market 4 to 6 months. What does that mean though when I say
The
stable?
market's in equilibrium.
The market's in equilibrium. What does that mean?
the number of buyers versus the number of sellers are about equal.
They're about equal. Supply and demand is about equal. So what might offers look like in that scenario?
Full price, or less.
Ask for closing.
You probably have a little bit more wiggle room with between the buyer and the seller, right? The seller's probably more likely to negotiate. The buyer cannot fully take advantage of the seller. Your list to sale ratio is probably in the neighborhood of 95%, 96, something like that. And then what's a buyer's market?
When they have the leverage.
When the buyer has the leverage, and when is that?
And the homes sit
When the homes are sitting, and how long are they gonna be sitting?
6 months plus. 5 months.
Like 7, 8 months or more.
Yeah, that sucks.
That constitutes a buyer's market. Now we have more supply than we have demand. Buyers have their choices. They can go make an offer on house A or house B. Pretty much both the same, price the same. Nobody else is making an offer on either one of those. Well, heck, I'll go in, now I can go in at $275 with a pool and the fire and the whole thing. I got nothing to lose. They're probably gonna respond to me, right? I'm probably gonna, now it's not gonna end up there, but I'm probably gonna get somewhere. The seller is more likely. So then our offers can be a little bit, make sense a little more. By the way, while we're on the subject of making offers and lowballing, is lowballing an effective tactic and strategy when buying a home?
No,
Why not?
because it pisses the sellers off.
So is purchasing or selling a home, is that an emotional experience? It is. Is buying a car or a boat or an RV an emotional experience?
Yes.
It is. So what's the difference? They're both emotional experiences. Why are they not the same?
The biggest purchase though they've made.
It's the biggest purchase that they'll make? Okay. But for some people, maybe not. What's the difference maker? The emotional attachment of whom? Of the seller. That's the difference maker. When you go to Galpin to buy a new car, Burt Boakman's emotional attachment to that Ford Explorer is about like this. Where's his emotional attachment?
The numbers.
To the number, to the deal. Actually, right now, it's remaining number one in the world as the number one Ford dealer in the world. That's where his attachment is emotionally. So all he's concerned about is making the car. He doesn't care about that black Ford Explorer ever again. Or the white one, or the orange one, or the red one, or the blue one. He doesn't care.
Volume, maybe.
It's all about getting the profit, right? When you go into Ashley Furniture Store and you want to buy the couch, what's the emotional attachment from the salesman to the sales manager to the owner of that franchise about that sectional sofa that you want to buy? Does he give 2 iotas about that sofa? What's he care about?
Selling.
The money. So when I go in and I say to the salesman, now he might act offended, right? They might act offended, right? And the thing says $24.99, and I say I'll give you $1,200. And he goes, "Oh, come on, that's ridiculous. I can't go to my manager with that." Okay. See you later. Right? There's no harm, no foul. It doesn't matter, right? Well, wait a second, sir. Let me see what I can get. I can get it down to $22.50. I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could. I could probably get my wife to go up to 1,400. Right? Are you seeing where this negotiate? Nobody's offended. I'm not offended because I can walk out and go down the road and buy another sofa. What do I care? And he's not offended. He doesn't care. He just wants to get the commission. Nobody's offended. We can talk like this for as long as the amount of time we want to waste with each other. We can do this. Right? And then, when I get the rock bottom price, what else as a buyer do I say? Now we've made an agreement on $1,874.38 because they've done all they can do. What's the next thing as a buyer that I say?
Free shipping.
What else? Perfect. Now that we've got a deal, what else are you going to give me? Are they offended? Are they going to kick me out of the store because I asked what else?
You gotta go.
Are they going to refuse my business because I asked what else? But when it comes to a home, the difference maker is the seller does have an emotional attachment to that product. So when you come in, when the house is worth, whatever we said, $310,000 all day long and twice on Sunday, and they offer $275,000 with a pool, right, and new carpet and paint, what's the seller thinking?
They don't like my house.
They don't like my house.
You're offended.
And I don't like them.
And I don't like them. They didn't even take the time to see little Tommy's handprint in the concrete outside and little Becky Sue's footprint from '02 back in the concrete thing. They didn't even take time to see that, and now they're offering me $275,000 and they want me to put in a pool and paint the wall. Little Tommy painted that wall. We painted that wall both for him and put the baseball with the guy thing on the wall for Tommy. Right? So you're not getting anywhere. Are we explaining this in this manner to our buyers? Because when you're a buyer, you're not thinking straight. You're thinking from, I'm going to get a deal. And it's our job to do what? What's our one thing? Oh my gosh. They're going to kick me out of this place. What am I doing?
Taking them from where
Where
they are
they
to
are.
where they
Taking them from where they are to where they want to be through their own fears and objections. So it's our job to remind them they're not negotiating on the new Mustang. That they're not negotiating on the sofa. That there's a live human being on the other side that's emotional about little Tommy's handprints and little Becky Sue's footprint. And we'll probably get further if we come closer. We'll probably get them to come off their number.
Instead of rejecting it.
Instead of completely not even giving us the time of day. Would you agree that that's probably the worst negotiation that you could have? You make an offer and the people say, screw you, get out of my house? Now, as an investor, you wouldn't care. But we're not talking to investors. We're talking to people who want to what? Keep their eye on the ball of doing what? What are we keeping their eye on the ball? What's the ball?
The end result.
What's the end result? What's the goal of the buyer?
Happiness.
To buy a home for their family. Are we keeping their eye on that ball? Are you with me?
Yes.
If you got it, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, hey, welcome back from your local economist lab. So I trust that you were able to interpret some things, maybe a variety of things for each thing, different options. What was the prescription? What did you say would be some maybe appropriate actions that they should take, and did you create that powerful offer? So now that we've been through that, I want to remind you about DTD2. And let's just revisit DTD2 for a minute. So in your workbook, we've got those points again where we said DTD2 is that rhythm, it's the flow, it's the thing that really creates that connection. It's where they get to experience you coming from contribution. And the next point, remember, it's your schedule. You follow this, and as you go through and you just interpret this data, now you've got the schedule, you're having dialogues. And by the way, you're not getting number 3, you're not getting into call bias. You're making sure that the conversations happen with all those people in your database that are really part of your network. And we've covered social media integration. And of course, the themes of DTD2 that allow you to keep this fun and focused and talk about it with each other. And don't forget, it's your maintenance schedule. It's that opportunity to go back and tag these things that need maintenance. And every cycle, take a few of them on, clean it up, make sure that database is solid. And the last thing I want to say about DTD2 as it relates to what we just went through is now when you make those calls, even if you're simply having a Ford conversation, and you're asking them about work, invariably, because you're in real estate, people are going to ask you what's going on in the market. And how intelligent a conversation can you have when you're doing this research? In fact, they probably received an email from you. You could say, well, one of the emails I sent to you a couple of weeks ago was actually, looked like the trend line right now suggests that there's still room for real estate prices to go up. We had a big reset after the Great Recession, and it looks like there might still be some room in this market. And yet we're probably maybe near the top, and so somebody that's thinking about selling really wants to maximize their value. That might be a good time. What are your long-term plans for your house, guys? Now that's it's an indirect question, and based on their answer, you might offer to give them a market update, or send them a Kelly Snap, or do a CMA. And so there's a lot of opportunity when you know the market to talk intelligently, to give a great prescription about the market and what maybe somebody should do, and then to go make an offer. So let's keep moving. And now we're going to talk about another little strategy, and that's called texting. Now, one additional thing you're going to see on the DTD2 schedule is that now we have a 1 letter a week group to text. And now you might have certain people that are allocated in each DTD2 group to be texted because that's just their extreme preference. What we're going to say, though, is texting is not a substitute for DTD2 personal interaction, either by the phone or face-to-face. Maybe use texting to set up a phone call. It's, hey, Brian, it's Steve over at Keller Williams. Hey, you got 2 minutes for a quick phone call. Got something important to discuss. And you send a text and it sets up the phone call. You can even schedule the call. Or you send a Kelly Snap. And so the group that's on the text week gets a Kelly Snap. And yet it's not a substitute for your DTD2 conversations. So look for that. We're just going to do it. So if you do one every 6 months, it's twice a year. So we'll do 1 letter a week that you have on a text schedule. And we're also going to be doing a couple of never-ending referral shorts on some text strategy too. We're going to do some interviews in that area, and look for that to be upcoming. And we'll send it out to your facilitators. We'll post it on the Facebook page, and you'll have access to that there. So now we're going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about this thing called items of value. Now, items of value. This is beginning the conversation around our 36 touch, the customized 36 touch that you're going to build today in a lab. And some of the things that might be included in that are what we call items of value. Items of value, they position us maybe in a way we choose to be seen, and also they can position us as, hey, I'm just like you, I'm part of the community. And so we're going to explore what we call the Tale of Two Cities. And first I'm going to start with Sue Adler. So we look at Sue Adler. She's one of our great agents in New Jersey, just across from Manhattan. One of the markets she serves, and there are several, encourage you to go to her website. We took this community report from her website for Summit, New Jersey. And when you look at this, look at all the hyper-local information, graphs, data, the offers, the testimonials, the high-quality pictures. Look at how this positions Sue as the absolute local expert. Now think about this report in printed form. think about it as a first piece to an 8x8. What kind of impact does it make? It's immediately an item of value. It gives it pertinent, hyper-local information, and she's got one of these for every community that she serves. Go to her website, look at them. This is a great strategy. Now, we might call it hyper-local, high-C heaven. I mean, for those people that really like the details, this is it. Now, when we think about another strategy, we've got some great agents out there. Here's some logos of some of our great agents who, they've done a club-type approach. And you buy a home, or you're an advocate, you're in their network, and you're a part of the club. And that club entitles you things to like borrow their moving truck, or to borrow the bouncy house for a party, or the margarita machine. And look at this example of a catalog that catalogs various things that you can borrow from them. And by the way, look at this, a chocolate fondue fountain, right? Or a margarita machine, or a snow cone machine. When would somebody borrow that? When they've got people over, they're having a party. They're gonna ask, where'd you get the commercial margarita machine? My realtor loaned it to me. And you're going, what does any of this have to do with real estate? I call it the ultimate Gretzky move. Because think about this for a second. Gretzky had this comment. He said, a good hockey player skates to where the puck is. He said a great hockey player skates to where the puck's gonna be. So think about this. If the average consumer today says it's gonna be 8 to 11 years before they move again, what are you engaging them about over those 8 to 11 years? We've given you all kinds of ways to do it. And these people have taken the club approach where I'm gonna engage them in their everyday life. If they need something, they call us. We tell them what we have. We've got a catalog. Now, this might be a challenge to do when you're flying as a solo agent, as your business scales up, you could scale this up with it. And you could have bigger offerings, and somebody could manage that whole process. And every time you see them, every time they make a request, it's an opportunity to ask how they're doing. It's an opportunity to ask for a referral. And then they gotta bring it back, and you get to see them again. Or somebody on your team does. And so I love it. It's a Gretzky move because you're meeting them where they are. You're going to that place, and you're able to be in their life during that time over the course of 8, 9, 10 years before they do another real estate transaction. So it's the tale of two cities. These are just ideas to start thinking about items of value. That whole catalog, those offerings are items of value. They put out a catalog. Here's what we have to offer for you. Or I've got a market report. It's an item of value. Now, other items of value might be, well, let me ask you. I'm going to put you in a lab. If you lived in a golf course community, what might be an item of value that you could provide to your database? If you were in Manhattan in the arts community, and that was a big part of your database, what would be an item of value that you could send to your database? Let's say that you were a Texas Longhorn football fan, so was most of your database. What would be an item of value you could send to your database? Or what about waterfront homes? So think about you, the life that is your life, and who's the community that you're connected with, and what might be some great items of value. So let's go into a lab right now, and I want y'all to take, in small groups, mastermind what might be some great items of value for you. And then write them down, and that's going to help us when we go build your customized 36 touch.
All right, so here's my advice around, for the sake of time, you're gonna have to do this on your own. Well, give me some ideas. Let's just real quick. Give me some ideas of some things that you can provide as items of value.
I was thinking of the football team like you had. You could send them a schedule.
Send them a schedule.
What about like job fairs? You could send out information on job fairs. The more people we have employed here, the more people that are gonna need a home.
Is your database tagged? You have it, right? Your one thing is to tag the data. We talked about that in the A and W, the B and E, D and O, C and K, F and G is this week, F and G, right? Ignore that, it's F and G, right? Yes?
Yes.
Are we all in agreement on that?
Yes.
That's one way to tag them, and that is a systematic way to be able to reach out to everybody in your database in a timely fashion and keep it organized. There's another way you could tag these folks, right? You can tag them in some form that would allow you to understand how important those people are to your business. To your business, not to you. They're all important to you, Jackie. I'm not saying that. I'm saying to your business, right? You could say A people. These are the people that do business with me. They refer business to me. They're my top people. That group is going to be somewhat smaller than the rest of the group, right? Then you've got the B group. These are the people that probably will, right? So on and so forth. So might you consider, if you had maybe 65 people in your A group, these are the people that are going to refer you, could you think outside the box for those 65 different people? Like, so expanding on Wendell's recommendation of a football schedule, right? Well, what if Tom was a NASCAR fan and not a football fan? Would he appreciate getting the football schedule as much? I mean, he would appreciate the gesture of Wendell, but the NASCAR schedule would be like, whoa, he knows me. Are you with me? So putting a little bit, you talked about Gretzky, right? Talked about hockey, and the best players anticipate where the puck is going, not where it is. So in this regard, you could do the same. Now, here's my recommendation around this. Take it, leave it, whatever, right? What happens in our day? We show up, we do our thing, we go home, and do you ever have that feeling of, I worked all day and I'm tired, but I feel like I didn't get anything done? Right? Does that ever happen to you? Okay. So, do you ever have something on your list that ends up not getting completed and it moves to the next day?
Yes.
And then that next day turns into next week, and that next week turns into next month? Okay, so that's what the item of value can potentially do to you. So when might be a good time to sit down and hammer out items of value?
Right now.
Huh?
Or, you mean as far as the time of the day, or right now? Start right now.
Start right now and start early, right? So it's October the 21st. 2020, by the way, is right around the corner. So why not stop and think now, what am I going to do in 2020 for my items of value? And map it out. January, February, March, April, May, June. These are what I'm going to give. This people group, and tag them, right? Start tagging A, B, and C, or 1, 2, 3, whatever works for you, where you can know who's who in the zoo and come up with a plan for that people group. Does this make sense to you?
All right, so welcome back from your items of value lab. So now that you've got that, we're ready to put together your customized 36 touch just for you. So what goes into this 36 touch? Now, it's important that it be a multi-channel approach. You know, not just email, not just direct mail. If it was just something, make it your 4 DTD2 calls. How much have you heard that already, right? And think about those thank you and thinking of, you know. So let's go right to our page on 36 touch. And let's just look at the outline. So what we're really looking at is 12 to 18 touches via email. And maybe that's going to include the month in real estate. It's going to be some statistical information about what's happening in the market. Maybe there's some community information that goes out in your emails. And so you're going to find that tone, that rhythm that you're looking for. So let's look at what we have next. We've got 9 to 12 touches that'll be direct mail. So maybe it's something around those concierge services, just like we talked about. Maybe you do have a catalog. Maybe it's a market graphs and trends with an offer that's included. Maybe it's like this one we do with our market center. One of our community trends is we do a feature of a local artist on the front side of the postcard. And on the back, we've got events that are happening over the next 2 months. And it helps our people be just part of the community. So let's go on. So next, you got DTD2. Don't skip that one. Got to do it. Wouldn't be prudent. Never skip it. And then next, we've got those items of value. What did you pick? And incorporating those into your schedule. And then lastly, those personal touches. When you get a referral or you've had a significant conversation, that thank you card, that thinking of you card, or you were doing the 3 attempt approach. And remember, we said when you got to that last attempt, if you didn't connect, maybe there were 5 people that week you didn't connect with, and you wrote a thinking of you card. Boy, the lost art of getting a card in the mail that somebody took time to handwrite. So do a Jimmy Fallon moment. Get that pen out and get the thank you note happening, right? You can do it. Get the thank you note happening. So that's it. That's what it's going to look like. And so let's go through just a few other points about marketing to help build that reputation, and then we're going to get you onto your lab. All right, so on the next page, I want to dig a little deeper on that mail piece. Direct mail isn't dead, guys. If we've got the right message, multi-channel approach is really vital to getting those connections with our database. And remember the barber story. If we're in contact with them, they're more apt to look at our email. They're more apt to look at our direct mail pieces, more likely to appreciate the items of value that you send. So let's dig into the marketing piece, so that direct mail item of value piece, and maybe some thoughts around how that would be positioned or packaged before you go into your lab today. And you'll see on the page here, we say that when it comes to building your reputation via marketing, there's a couple of things, well, there's 3 things we want to do. We want to demonstrate evidence of success. We want to demonstrate knowledge and expertise. And we also want to, geez, we want to be one of them. I'm one of you. I'm just like you. I'm part of the community. And so do me a favor. Next to each of those bullets, I want you to put the number 4. And let's put the number 4, because I'm going to say out of the 12 touches that might come via this channel, that you might divide it up with 4 of each of these. So the demonstration of being successful might be just listings or solds, or testimonials, or something about your strong, unique selling proposition. Maybe like Keller Mortgage, the 0+ mortgage. Or we go down to knowledge and expertise. We're getting back to interpreting MLS and market stats, economic trends, maybe a Best Buy list, or do like the Jim Reitzel up in Kitchener-Waterloo, Canada, and invite them to an investment seminar, pack the house with people that want to learn how to invest in real estate. And then lastly, that I'm one of you. Community info and events, or maybe that summer fun trips or tips, and then quarterly arts calendar, something like this that just says, I'm part of the community. So lastly, before we wrap up today, a big part of making this as impactful as possible is being hyper-local. And that takes a lot of work to put this together. It's all right to use a stock campaign that maybe isn't hyper-local, and ultimately you want to build hyper-local campaigns. Now here's the great part of Keller Williams technology. As we develop more and more smart plans, and you're able to launch these into command, you can put a committee together in your market center to help build hyper-local stats and build them into smart plans that you can all use together. Now in our market center right now, we've developed a program called AutoConnect, where we put together hyper-local information, put it into a newsletter, put it into an email, and we also do calendars on events and that as well, which is an item of value, featuring a local artist. We talked about that a little bit, so think about that at your market center level. Is there an opportunity for you to develop a content committee to build hyper-local smart plans that everybody can use and really bring this down to a local granular level? So right now, that kind of puts a wrap on it right here, and let's do a little wrap up, and then in a bit, you're gonna get into your lab.
Wow, Steve, what an impactful session. We have covered so much today. Let's just go over the highlight reel of everything that we dove into.
Man, it is a highlight reel too, and there's a lot we covered. The 4 M's, guys: message, method, mission, and MOFR. Remember MOFR, making offers for immediate response. Got to get those offers in there, direct and indirect. We covered those 14 economists of choice value points. In fact, we came from the Shift book. We talked about interpreting data. When we market to people and we use data, local data, national data, it doesn't really matter what data it is. If we just put it on a postcard or in a newsletter, we send it out, it's like we said, we're just kind of like being a reporter. And we're leaving people maybe to interpret it their own way. So the way we become that trusted advisor, that local expert, is we report it, we put it down. We interpret it, demonstrates we understand it, we're the expert. We pull things out of there they might not pull out of it. And then to really become the advisor, we maybe suggest, here's what you ought to do in light of what's happening or in light of this information. Here's the opportunity, here's the caution, here's the action maybe you should be taking in light of what we just shared with you. And then of course that never-ending referrals 36 touch. And we talked items of value today. And of course the items of value, that's about just kind of making you one of them. Maybe it's community stuff, those football schedules, things we talked about. And so right now, as we go to wrap up this session, you're going to go to your lab and you're going to work on your outline for your ideal 36 touch. What kind of items of value might you include? So dig into that, explore what are your items of value going to be. Put it down on the schedule that we've provided and get this programmed. Get really clear. Now remember, here's the cool thing. With 36 touches, you're touching your database just about every 10 days. And when you tap on it, every 10 days. I mean, if you did this enough, it would get uncomfortable for a while. And yet, we're not making them uncomfortable, we're adding value with every touch. And so remember, consistency compounds. So go into your lab and remember, when you do the work, well, what happens, Tammy, when they do the work?
May your referrals be never ending.
You got it, guys. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
See you next time. Okay, so you guys' homework is going to be to prepare your 36 touch. Complete your outline. That is your one thing. What's your one thing? I don't think anybody heard you, including me. Wendell didn't hear you. What did you say? What is it? Complete the 36 touch. That's your one thing. What else are you going to do this week? And who are you going to call this week? F and G's. So you're going to tag the F and G in the database if you haven't already done so. And you're going to go through and you're going to call the F and G's, right? And you're going to ask for referrals. You're going to ask for referrals. You're going to ask for the business, right? You're going to do your social media. F and G, yes?
Yes.
All right. And your one thing for the week is? What's the difference between being committed in something and being interested in something? We talked about this straight up in front of the class. If you're interested, what happens?
You have to.
You'll say it again?
You do it when it's convenient.
You do it when it's convenient, when you're interested. When you're committed, what happens? What's that look like?
You do whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. And you're only worried about the results. So, this week, your one thing is to what?
36 touch.
Complete your 36 touch. Your business depends on it. Your job depends on it. Don't fire yourself. Right? Okay, what are your ahas from today? Talk to me.
Gotta stay,
Say it again.
you gotta stay committed.
You gotta stay committed. Tiff?
I liked the fact that you told us to use facts, not just words.
Facts and not just words. Be the market expert. Don't be a salesperson. They'll see through you. What else? That's it? That's all you got? No other ahas? Give me one more aha.
Knowing the market,
Knowing the market. Tell me more about that.
to explain it better to your buyers and your sellers.
Yeah. Yeah, knowing the market. Do you know how to know the market?
What?
You use Flex, right? Now, it's not gonna be like, you're not gonna be like a market economist, right? Right out the gate. What must you do
To
to
stay up.
refine that and get better? Stay up on it, right? You gotta stay, I'll be done in 2 minutes. You gotta be able to stay up on it. You gotta practice it, right? It may have looked like the Dodgers didn't practice. That may, like they botched it in the playoffs. It may have looked like they never showed up, but they did, trust me. They practiced. Right? You don't win 106, you don't break a franchise record and have 106 wins by not practicing. So you would do the same, right? You're gonna become the market expert by practicing reviewing the market and coming to coach. You're gonna do that by making one-on-one appointments with your coach, right? So we can talk about your business at a high level, and also we could get into some of that stuff in there, right? Especially if you come prepared
Yes.
with your prep form. I love it. Tia emails it to me the day before. That's good. Come with your prep form filled out so that we know and we can get that conversation out the way. And then if we need to talk about the market and how to maybe increase your knowledge around the market at a higher level, we have time to talk about that. But also with group coaching, we talk about that a lot, do we not?
Yeah.
How many of you were here over the summer where we talked about it for like 5 weeks straight? Okay, and we spend a lot of time on that because of the importance. Now what we've been doing over the last 6 weeks is combining launch coaching with move, because I felt that this course was so vital and important to your business that I felt like it's okay, let's bring it all together and have this be our launch coaching. Yeah? Right? So we got 2 more weeks of this, like this format. And then we're gonna go back